It's an embrace more than 40 years in the making.
I love you. Thank you for all your prayers.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the heart-wrenching disappearances we feared would never be resolved.
Detective Mark Janney with the Cold Case Unit spent more than 100 hours interrogating the man he calls a monster.
Aton Pates.
It was on every milk carton. I remember hanging out on the pier on Bank Street on the Village, just hanging out with my friends, and the airplanes would go by with the banners. Aton Patz, little boy, it was just everywhere.
On his first solo trip to the bus stop, Aton Pates vanished. His teacher noted his absence from school, but did not notify the principal. When he failed to return home later that day, his mother alerted authorities, and a massive search effort ensued. However, there was no trace of Pates.
Do you think your son is still alive?
I believe he's alive, and I will continue to do so till we get some answers.
But answers would be a long time coming.
His disappearance helped spur the creation of the missing children movement. Pates' face was one of the first to appear on the missing children milk cartons of the 1980s. Decades later, in 2012, a man named Pedro Hernandez confessed to killing Pates. Hernandez, who worked at a bodega near the bus stop at the time of Pates' disappearance, was convicted in 2017 and sentenced to life in prison.
Hernandez didn't speak in court, but his defense team emphatically denies he had anything to do with Aton's disappearance.
Mike Williams.
What happened to Mike Williams would have stayed a mystery if his best friend and wife's secret lover hadn't started talking.
When Mike Williams went missing during a hunting trip in 2000, investigators determined he likely drowned as the result of an unfortunate accident. His abandoned boat was found floating in Lake Seminole, but after an extensive search, his body was not recovered. Unsatisfied with the conclusion, his mother pushed for a new investigation.
So what are my other alternatives if he didn't drown in the lake and he didn't get eaten by alligators? Did he walk off?
Officials reopened the case in 2004. Suspicions soon settled on Williams' widow, Denise, and her new husband, Brian Winchester. Shortly before the ill-fated hunting trip, Winchester had helped Denise take out a life insurance policy on Williams. In 2017, Winchester, who was already serving time on kidnapping charges, revealed the location of Williams' body. In 2019, Denise was convicted for her role in Williams' murder. Winchester received immunity for aiding investigators.
Co-worker Ketchum says the arrest validates most people's suspicions.
I think we saw this day coming.
Sandra Young.
For over 50 years, she was nameless, her case unsolved.
This was one of our oldest cases, definitely.
In the late 1960s, Sandra Young went missing from Portland, Oregon. She was never seen alive again. A short distance away on Sauvie Island, a Boy Scout troop leader made a horrifying discovery: a body buried in a shallow grave. For 54 long years, Young's family had no idea what happened to her. Meanwhile, the body found on Sauvie Island remained unidentified. Thanks to genetic genealogy, the connection between the two cases was finally established. DNA testing confirmed that the unknown murder victim was Sandra Young. While Young has finally been located, little else is known about her disappearance or her tragic death.
In 2018, the Oregon State Police Medical Examiner's Office received a federal grant that allowed them to use modern DNA technology, which helped them construct this approximation of what the girl would look like.
Elisabeth Fritzl.
Fritzl had become obsessed with his daughter. He spied on her and demanded to know where she was at all times.
For 24 years, Josef Fritzl held his daughter Elisabeth captive in the basement of this home in Amstetten, Austria. During her imprisonment, Elisabeth gave birth to 7 children, all fathered by Josef. When one of the older daughters fell deathly ill in 2008, Fritzl agreed to take her to the local hospital. Eventually, Fritzl permitted Elisabeth to visit her ailing daughter.
The eldest of the Seller kids, 19-year-old Kirsten, became seriously ill, and remarkably, Fritzl agreed to call an ambulance. Her first time ever outside.
It was her first time seeing the outside world since 1984. The story Fritzl provided didn't sit well with hospital staff, who ultimately contacted the police. He later confessed to luring his daughter to the basement and imprisoning her there. To conceal the crime, Fritzl declared Elisabeth a runaway and forced her to write letters claiming she did not want to be found.
It's now this monster who's facing the rest of his days locked away.
Zeb Quinn.
As you know, there's never been a body recovered in the investigation involving Zeb Quinn's disappearance. The Asheville Police Department is committed to leaving no stone unturned.
In January 2000, after finishing work, Zeb Quinn went to see a vehicle with his co-worker Robert Jason Owens. They drove separately. According to Owens, Quinn received a page, abruptly sped away, and disappeared. His car was found several days later in a restaurant parking lot. The headlights were on, and a puppy was in the back seat. Someone had drawn a kiss and an exclamation point on the back window in pink lipstick.
Nothing. No clues that could lead to an arrest. No hints of whether he is dead or alive.
There was no sign of Quinn. A breakthrough came in 2017 when officials charged Owens with Quinn's murder. The exact circumstances are unknown, but a love triangle may be at the heart of the case. At the time of his conviction, Owens was already serving life for killing Christy and Joseph Codd.
At this point, investigators have called his arrest a major break in the case.
Feel very confident in the strength of the case.
Britney Drexel.
And then Britney says, "Okay, Mom, I'll see you tomorrow. I love you." Those were her last words to me.
On the evening of April 25, 2009, Britney Drexel went missing from the busy main strip in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and was never seen again. A few days prior, without her mother's knowledge or consent, Drexel had traveled from her home in Shiloh, New York to visit the popular vacation destination for spring break with some friends. Security footage showed Drexel arriving at the Blue Water Resort around 8 p.m. to visit a friend, and then departing a short time later.
Because Miss Drexel didn't make it to the corner of that video, but she was in the other video, and she was on the phone at this point, but not on the phone at this point, they were able to pick a very narrow, less than a minute time frame that something happened to her.
Britney seemingly vanished into thin air somewhere between the Blue Water Resort and her hotel. 13 years later, in 2022, Raymond Moody, a convicted sex offender, confessed to kidnapping and killing Drexel. He was subsequently convicted and sentenced to life in prison.
Today marks the beginning of a new chapter. The search for Britney is now a pursuit of Britney's justice.
The Lyon sisters.
Investigators canvassed neighborhoods by air and on the ground after 10-year-old Catherine and 12-year-old Sheila disappeared.
When Catherine and Sheila Lyon disappeared on their way home from a Wheaton, Maryland shopping center, their fate remained a mystery for over 35 years. On the day they vanished, the sisters went for lunch at a popular pizza joint located in the shopping center. Eyewitnesses saw them talking with a man outside the restaurant before they went inside. They were later spotted making their way home after the meal, but they never arrived.
It's just a thing, maybe they could be up here or something bad like that could happen in my family or somebody in my family be involved in something like that, period. Yeah, that scares me.
By 2013, the case had grown cold, but authorities hoped to breathe new life into the investigation. News of a significant development broke in 2015 when convicted sex offender Lloyd Lee Welch Jr. was indicted for the murder of the Lyon sisters. He later pled guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder.
Today, convicted sex offender Lloyd Lee Welch shuffled into the courtroom here in leg irons.
Baby Holly.
I just wanted to hug her. I just wanted to get up and hug her so bad. But it was Zoom, and you can't.
When Dean and Tina Klaus relocated with their daughter Holly to Texas in 1980, they hoped for a fresh new start. A few months later, they were gone. Their whereabouts remained unknown until 2021. Advances in DNA technology helped match Dean and Tina to 2 unidentified murder victims found in 1981 just outside of Houston.
What I noticed upon uploading Tina's DNA immediately was kind of what we call gold, in this business, a very high match.
With the couple's fate solved, one big question remained. What happened to baby Holly? After further investigation, authorities found her alive and well in Oklahoma. She was raised by a pastor and his wife after 3 women, one of which was likely Tina Klaus, mysteriously left Holly in their care. The Klauses may have joined a cult called Christ Family before they were killed, which compelled them to give Holly away.
She was missing in plain sight. She had no idea that she was missing. Shocking across the board.
Jaycee Dugard.
She reaches the road. A gray car pulls up. A stranger rolls down the window.
And his hand shoots out, and I just feel numb.
It was broad daylight when Jaycee Dugard was kidnapped on her way to the bus stop. She wasn't seen again for 18 years. Her family continued efforts to find her, but hope for a positive outcome grew smaller every year.
There was not a day that I didn't cry. I felt like there would never ever be a day that I wouldn't cry again.
Her rescue came when her kidnapper, Philip Garrido, visited UC Berkeley with 2 pale and sullen girls to request permission to hold an event. His behavior and the state of the girls aroused suspicion. It was later discovered that he was a registered sex offender in violation of parole. More unsettling details emerged when Garrido was forced to report to the parole officer. Dugard had been imprisoned in appalling conditions in Garrido's backyard, and the 2 girls with him at UC Berkeley had been Dugard's daughters.
The secret compound was so well concealed, law enforcement officers did not find it during searches of the property in 2006 and last July.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Elisabeth Smart.
14-year-old Elisabeth Smart ripped from her bedroom in the middle of the night, missing for 9 months, until a remarkable turn of events.
In the dark of night, Elisabeth Smart was roused from sleep by a knife-wielding intruder. Her sister, Mary Catherine, who shared a room with Smart, lay frozen in fear and pretended to be asleep. Brian David Mitchell held Smart captive for 9 months. During that time, Smart went on several public outings with Mitchell and his wife, Wanda Barzee.
He had a big cable bolted onto my leg, which was strung between 2 trees with a lock, she said. He had the key around his neck.
They forced Smart to wear a veil and headscarf to hide her identity. Mary Catherine eventually recognized the kidnapper's voice as that of a man who once did some work on the family's home. A sketch of the man was featured on America's Most Wanted, and some of Mitchell's family members recognized him. Mitchell and Barzee were soon apprehended, and Smart was reunited with her family.
I eventually came to a point where I was like, okay, one day, somehow, I'm going to survive this. I'm going to get back to my family.
Which one of these chilling cases affected you the most? Let us know in the comments. Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.